Hello, and welcome to 5-Minute Pediatric Nephrology. My name is Dr. Nephron because anything saltier would be bad for your health. Today we are going to learn about sugar toxin E. coli associated HUS, STEC HUS, all in about 5 minutes, but don't hold me to it. From a classification standpoint, we discussed this in the TMA lecture. There's really no standardized TMA classification, what is primary, what is secondary, but here if you see down the right side, we are going to be talking about HUS, STEC HUS. The definition of STEC-HUS again has all the features of TMA, anemia, thrombocytopenia, and AKI due to sugar toxin-mediated endothelial injury leading to platelet activation and microthrombi. The kidneys are the predominantly affected organ, and it has significantly more AKI than TTP. In terms of the epidemiology, most of the TMA in pediatrics is due to E. coli HUS. Typically, the children are less than 5 years old. Around 10 to 20% of E. coli infections lead to HUS. Dialysis is often required up to 50% of patients with HUS, but typically children recover in about 2 weeks. Pathogenesis: the sugar toxin binds to the GB3 receptors on the endothelium. Endothelial injury leads to platelet activation. Microthrombi lead to renal ischemia. Complement may also be secondarily activated, so you may see some low complement levels, but don't think that this is a typical HUS in the proper clinical context. Another more unusual cause of HUS from the infection standpoint is strep pneumo-mediated HUS. Strep pneumo produces neuraminidase, which exposes the T antigen on red blood cells, platelets, and the endothelium, which then instigates the production of anti-T IgM antibodies, which bind, then cause hemolysis and endothelial injury. It is fairly rare. Typically, the patients are less than 2 years old and have invasive pneumococcal disease. Clinical clues of severe illness, often ICU level. There's no diarrheal prodrome, and they may have a positive direct Coombs test, unlike E. coli HUS. T antigen activation means you should avoid plasma containing blood products when possible to avoid more antibody binding. Treatment is supportive care as well as antibiotics. Role of eculizumab is a good question. Unclear what role it has. Some papers find the benefit, some do not, and some may even prolong the course, so still controversial. Complications: that it has a higher severity and dialysis is not infrequent. Outcomes are variable, improved over time, and there are severe courses though as compared to regular HUS. In terms of the pathophysiology of E. coli and strep pneumo HUS, we see on the top left sugar toxin pathogenesis, where you have E. coli releasing sugar toxin which binds to GB3 and the endothelium, endothelial cell activation and injury, as well as RBC fragmentation, leading to high shear stress thrombotic microangiopathy. And the strep neuraminidase activates the antigen, leading to antibody activation and deposition of fibrin and platelets formation in the endothelium. Distinguishing features of E. coli HUS: bloody diarrhea, which typically precedes the TMA by about 3 to 10 days. Severe AKI, renal dominant organ disease. However, they can have neurological symptoms. Thrombocytopenia and hemolytic anemia, again, all features of TMA. Lab findings: so you'll have anemia, thrombocytopenia, evidence of hemolysis with elevated LDH, a low haptoglobin. Schistocytes will be present on the smear, which again you will have to request. However, they may be absent. Creatinine is usually fairly elevated, much more so than TTP. Stool tests will have sugar toxin positive, but don't lose sight that it may be negative, and so don't discount sugar toxin E. coli HUS if the sugar toxin is negative, but everything else fits the clinical picture. And hematuria and proteinuria do vary. Differential comparison: we've seen this chart a few times already. HUS has sugar toxin as compared to complement-mediated and atypical HUS and ADAM-TS13 and TTP respectively. Diarrhea is obviously the focus in HUS. Renal involvement is severe. There are neurological symptoms in about 30 to 40% of patients. Complement can be low just due to the infection, but don't lose sight of the diarrheal prodrome that leads us to HUS. Platelets are going to be moderately low as compared to TTP. ADAM-TS is going to be normal, and treatment is supportive. So again, making sure you have the correct diagnosis is critical, as you see atypical HUS and TTP are treated differently. So here we have a clinical case. 3-year-old boy presents with 4 days of watery diarrhea, now bloody. Decreased urine output over the last 24 hours. He's hypertensive, has mild periorbital edema, no focal neurological deficits, and his abdomen is diffusely tender. His hemoglobin is 8.2. Platelets are low, 42,000. Elevated LDH and bilirubin with low haptoglobin, indicating hemolysis. Creatinine is elevated. Peripheral smear shows schistocytes. And his stool sugar toxin PCR is positive. In terms of your treatment, supportive care is the only real treatment we have for E. coli HUS, fluids, and electrolytes. Patients may need dialysis up to 50%, as we mentioned earlier. Avoid unnecessary antibiotics or antimotility agents, as those may just make things worse. And early supportive care do improve outcomes. Diagnosis is sometimes delayed due to early diarrheal phase being mistaken for some other kind of infection. And again, as we noted, sugar toxin may be negative, and people may take that as a false sign of something else. Incomplete triad initially. There is overlap with atypical HUS and delayed stool testing. Complications or outcomes. CKD is up to 30% of patients with E. coli HUS. Remember, up to 50% require dialysis. Even though they recover, there's still significant CKD. Hypertension and mortality can even reach up to 15% even nowadays in E. coli HUS. Key teaching points. E. coli HUS is the most common form of pediatric TMA. Diarrhea precedes the TMA by several days. It's a renal dominant disease, and again, dialysis can occur in up to 50% of patients. However, there's no really defined therapy. Supportive care is the mainstay. And here on this last slide, we have some of the references if you'd like a deeper dive on the topic, because who wouldn't? That's your 5-minute nephrology on STEC HUS with Dr. Nephron. Until next time, you're in good hands with renalforresidents.com. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and to stay up to date, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Renal for Residents. Take care.